How's it going, everyone? This is the George here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Disclosure Day. That's right, the new Steven Spielberg movie, going back to his more traditional roots of aliens, extraterrestrial movies, similar to E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This time starring Emily Blunt, Colin Firth, Josh O'Connor, Coleman Domingo, and in this world that the movie takes place in, World War III is vastly approaching. It's being spoken about in the news like while all this stuff's happening. And two people, a former cybersecurity officer that Josh O'Connor plays, and a TV meteorologist in Kansas City that Emily Blunt plays, they both had this shared experience when they were young involving aliens, but don't remember much about it. And before it, and eventually their paths collide, especially since Josh O'Connor's character is got this information that Colin Firth and his agency are trying to get their hands on. Also, John Williams does the score on this movie. David Kep does the screenplay. Kep has done some other screenplays for Steven Spielberg, like the first two Jurassic Park movies, and I think Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So Steven Spielberg, the guy's almost 80 years old, and he's still directing movies. He's one of the all-time best directors. He's directed a lot of movies that I love, whether it be movies like E.T. from my childhood or Jurassic Park, the original Indiana Jones movies, and of course the more Oscar Academy Award stuff like Schindler's List, which is one of the all-time greatest movies, one of the most sad movies ever made. Catch Me If You Can, which is a great movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. Minority Report, a science fiction thriller, which I think also came out the same year as Catch Me If You Can. And that's the wonder of Spielberg, is that he can direct two amazing movies in the same year. In 1993, he did Schindler's List and Jurassic Park. One was a sad, tragic tale about the Holocaust and how Oscar Schindler protected many people. He got Jurassic Park, a science fiction movie based off a book about a theme park about dinosaurs coming to life. And then, of course, you have Catch Me If You Can and Minority Report coming out both in 2002. And those are also two different movies as well. So Spielberg definitely has a great touch. I know some people have been questioning, has he lost his touch, because he hasn't really done much blockbuster movies throughout the years. I think the last blockbuster science fiction movie he did was Ready Player One, which was a good movie, but wasn't anything special. I think people who are fans of the book were a little disappointed with how that turned out. And I know he's kind of done more award season Oscar like movies, but they're not on the same level as movies like Schindler's List. He's done West Side Story, the remake, which was a good remake, not a great remake though. He did The Fablemans. I know he also did The Post before Ready Player One. When all good movies, not fantastic movies, but you can also make the case that even if they're not all-time Spielberg great movies, they're still better than a lot of the movies that have come out in those same years. So I think for a lot of people, we're hoping Disclosure Day is back to that traditional Spielberg route that he is getting his touch back. He's going back to making a summer blockbuster. He's the king of summer blockbusters. When Jaws came out in 1975 and established the summer blockbuster movie season, in which, by the way, Jaws celebrated its 50th anniversary last year. So for 50 years, he has been the king, even though he hasn't really done a whole lot of summer blockbusters in recent years. This is his first one in a while. And I have to say, with Disclosure Day, it has those familiar Spielberg beats, obviously touching upon aliens and extraterrestrial beings, kind of similar to Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. You got a John Williams score that's very good. You have some good chase sequences, particularly in the second act, involving Josh O'Connor's character trying to escape these government people that are trying to get that information that he stole. You have that slow but informative setup. Like Spielberg, the thing Spielberg does well is that while he does have slow build-ups with his movies, whether they're blockbuster movies or Academy Award season movies, they are informative. They, even if they do feel slow, they don't drag on, nor do they bore you. I wasn't bored by the beginning part when they're building this up, and especially because you've got two different characters that are gonna eventually collide halfway through the movie, and Emily Blunt's character and Josh O'Connor's character, and they've got two different pathways. Emily Blunt is a TV meteorologist, and she also has this psychic gift where she knows about people's tragedies, what they're going through, what they went through, and it touches people and it gets them emotional and they react to it. But also there I like that there is a little discussion in the movie minor spoiler, but Josh O'Connor's character, his girlfriend, she's a former nun, and at one point like he brings her to the nuns to hide out, but she has to go on the quest because of course the love interest has to go on the quest. But she gets in contact with one of the nuns, and there is this interesting discussion about, did if God created life, did he only create life on Earth, or did he create life on other planets? Which I found to be pretty interesting. I'm Catholic myself, and I actually found that to be pretty interesting of a discussion. So Spielberg definitely has some interesting discussions in this movie. And of course, the theory of, is the government withholding information about aliens? Did we meet aliens decades ago? We're just keeping it a secret. People will believe that's true. Some people will believe it's not true, but they might still believe aliens are out there. Maybe we just don't have proof of it yet. So this movie definitely does have that interesting premise in it. But there are some scenes that you can't help but wonder, maybe they could have trimmed that scene down, they could have cut it. But the length of the movie isn't the problem with Disclosure Day. The problem with Disclosure Day is more so the stuff that happens in the third act. And I feel like the best way to explain this is, we just had an NBA Finals where the New York Knicks, I got my New York Knicks hat, they just won in 5 games against the San Antonio Spurs. But in a lot of those games, the Spurs start off very strong. They lead by double digits. In one game, they led by 29 points. In game 5, they led by as many as 16 points. But the Knicks always found a way to come back and win the game. In this case, Disclosure Day kind of feels similar to the Knicks versus Spurs games, where Disclosure Day, I thought, got off to a pretty good start. In the second act, it felt like it was building up. There was a good build up to this. There's a really good mystery and thriller aspect of Disclosure Day. It's actually surprising that the science fiction aspect, something that Steven Spielberg does so well with, was the weakest aspect, and he was stronger with the mystery and thriller aspect, as to like, why does Emily Blunt's character have these powers? What did she experience? What is being hidden? Why is World War III happening? Why are these people so bent on hiding this information? What lengths will they go to? But back to the basketball analogy that I was making. The third act is basically where the Knicks make their comeback, where all of a sudden the Spurs are losing. In this case, the third act, Disclosure Day, I think starts to lose the plot. First of all, the way that the antagonists, Colin Firth and his group of people, are stopped feels so weak, so forced. It feels like Steven Spielberg and David Kemp had no idea how to conclude that story arc, because afterwards nothing's really done. It kind of just feels like, minor spoiler, the movie's been out for a few days now, but minor spoiler, it kind of feels like his character just surrendered. And I'm not expecting some kind of big action sequence like in an Indiana Jones movie, but at least maybe the character, Colin Firth's character, tries to push back, like try to push back before ultimately he does concede. And then, the stuff's being leaked out, and then something happens, and you think more's going to be revealed, and you're expecting something, and the movie just ends. The credits roll and everything, and it's just, that was it. It feels like a lackluster ending after a pretty strong buildup. And that's disappointing because Steven Spielberg usually has very good endings for his movies. Even movies that aren't that great, like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I like the ending of that movie. I think this is the first time I was disappointed in a Steven Spielberg movie and a Steven Spielberg movie ending. Now, does that mean I think Disclosure Day is a bad movie? No, because I did like the first act. I did like the second act when there was more action, more thriller stuff happening. And the third act, not everything about the third act I thought was bad. The stuff that happened before my issues with the movie, my big issues happened, I liked what was happening. I liked the reveal as to how these characters are connected and what their past was. But then after that, the movie really goes on that lackluster downward spiral, and it's disappointing because Steven Spielberg can do better. And I've actually been will defend Steven Spielberg on his recent filmography because even if they haven't done so well at the box office, they're still quality movies in both story and cinematography. I think the cinematography still looks very good. The visuals still look very good. And I think the acting for the most part was very good. The only character performance I wasn't big on was Wyatt Russell's character, and he plays Emily Blunt's boyfriend in the movie. But I think even Spielberg knew that the character was a weak link. So halfway through the movie, minor spoiler, he stops appearing. And I think that was a big relief because I think he was kind of holding back the movie a little bit. And once he was gone, the movie felt more free. But the acting I thought was very good. I thought Emily Blunt did a very good job. I think Colin Firth did a very good job. Coleman Domingo, I thought, did a very good job. Josh O'Connor, I thought, did a very good job. But it was really the third act, and it kind of reminded me of this New York Knicks San Antonio Spurs finals. And yeah, I was rooting for the Knicks. I'm glad the Knicks won. But in this case, Disclosure Day felt like the Spurs, and it felt like the Knicks were the negatives of the movie, and the negatives started outweighing the positives. And overall, I still think the majority of the movie was fine, but I think what could have been a very good movie, a great movie, a statement from Spielberg that he can still make blockbuster movies, did not have a good delivery at the end. And that's disappointing because I like Steven Spielberg. I think he's one of the great directors. And I've said this before on my recent streams, my common sense and pop culture streams, where, people, if they dislike a movie that a director made, some people overreact and say that director is garbage, their past movies were garbage. First of all, Disclosure Day is nowhere near the worst Steven Spielberg movie ever made. And Disclosure Day is still better than quite a few blockbusters that have come out from franchises like Marvel and DC from the past 6 years or so. Like Disclosure Day is better than the last movies we got from the DCEU before it got canceled. Disclosure Day is still better than a lot of the post Infinity Saga MCU movies. Disclosure Day is a lot better than the Mandalorian Grogu, in my opinion. And of course, Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. It's just, you kind of expected more from a Steven Spielberg science fiction movie. I mean, the guy that gave us Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T., but we also got to remember that those movies are over 40 years old. In fact, Close Encounters is going to be 50 years old next year. But even still, when he was making movies like West Side Story and The Fablemans, it still had very good cinematography and good stories. So Spielberg has shown that he can still make quality movies and have quality stories. But again, there's going to be some people that might overreact and say, oh, Spielberg's ruined for life. No, Disclosure Day doesn't ruin Spielberg's filmography, especially because there are a lot of people that did like this movie that don't mind the ending of this movie. I think the ending of this movie will divide fans. I think this will be a Steven Spielberg movie that audiences will feel divided on. Some people will like it, some people won't. Perhaps maybe revisiting this movie down the road, maybe I will appreciate it more. Maybe Steven Spielberg will explain why he made those decisions in the third act that I think were weak, why he ended the movie the way that he did. But overall, even though the third act did hurt the movie, I did like the buildup of the first two acts. Spielberg can still make quality movies. David Koepp is still a hit or miss writer. Maybe if Spielberg had a better writer, maybe the movie could have turned out better. I don't know. The performances were still very good. The action sequences, when they happened, were very good. Um, but the science fiction aspect I thought was weak, which again is disappointing because Spielberg exceeds at that. I thought the mystery and thriller aspect were the stronger genres in the movie. And overall, I'm going to give Disclosure Day a B minus. Like I said, there's still a lot of good things to like about this movie, but I also feel like when you have that strong buildup, you got to have a very good ending. And when you have a disappointing, confusing ending where things don't feel fully resolved with the antagonists, where you think something big's going to happen, but it really doesn't, that I think hurts a movie. And I think that hurts all that goodwill that the movie was building up. But yeah, I don't think this is Spielberg's worst movie. Nowhere near it. But here's the thing: even a movie that's bad, even for the Spielberg standard, is still probably going to be better than a lot of other movies, like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, for example. Sorry, I don't know what just happened there. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to me is the weakest Indiana Jones movie, but even then, I don't think it's a terrible movie. There's been worse franchise movies from other franchises that have come out. There's still a lot that I like about that movie. So, Disclosure Day, which I think is better than King of the Crystal Skull, kind of the same thing, but I guess in regards to Spielberg science fiction movies. But what are your thoughts on Disclosure Day? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you think the ending was disappointing? Were you fine with the ending? Let me know in the comments down below. Is it your least favorite Spielberg movie, or is it one of your favorite Spielberg movies? You can also share if you think Spielberg should retire or not. Honestly, I don't think he should retire. I think he's still capable of making quality movies. Maybe just get better writers. I don't know, but I think he can still make movies. And regardless of how you feel about his recent movies, he still gave us the Indiana Jones franchise. He still gave us E.T. He brought Jurassic Park to life on the big screen. He gave us Catch Me If You Can, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I've mentioned these movies several times. And of course, Jaws, which gave us the summer blockbuster movie season. But yeah, anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe right if you haven't. Please share this with someone that is a Steven Spielberg fan, that is into science fiction movies. And I hope to see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone.